Okay, hello. Hello. Just let me check the audio settings. Say hello, everyone. Hopefully you can hear myself. You can see me. Hopefully, yeah. Yeah, I can hear myself on the video now. Okay. So let us know in the comments on the YouTube channel here. Let me know where you're joining from. Let me know your target score for the writing section. Let me know that you can hear me okay, that you can see me. So for those of you who may not know me, my name is Jonathan. I'm an English teacher from the United States, and I've been teaching overall for 20 years. And for the exam preparation, I've been doing this for at least about 7-8 years, and on the internet, online, with Skype, Zoom. I've been teaching for the last 5 years or so that I've had my website. So, I say here, hello, Dr. Arcana. So, where are you joining from? And also here, A7 Meadow 8. Hello, all of you. Thank you for joining here and seeing a few more people joining. And I'll just put a message over on the Facebook group to say that the video, the YouTube video is live now. Please come join us. And let me just get the link there. Try to get more people to join us right now. Okay. Okay, great. So, getting preparing for a long time. I recognize that for a lot of people, and you need to get at least 100 there. Okay, but it's still getting in the 80s. Okay, let me know the scores you're getting in each section. Sometimes that helps me see where you need a little bit more help in terms of the writing, the speaking, the listening, reading. And how much we can kind of go up on your writing score in these next 2 weeks if you get a chance to join us. And hello, Ryan. Great to have you here. I believe you sent me some essays, so we'll take a look later on here once we get a few more people joining. Okay, and also needing help in listening and reading. That is certainly something I want to approach as a program coming up. I've done a speaking challenge, and I've done a speaking workshop, like 1 week, 2 weeks. Now I'm doing these writing workshops. This is the second time I'm organizing the 2-week writing workshop. And I do want to focus coming up later on the listening and reading. I've been talking to other TOEFL instructors to get their advice on how would you go about organizing a listening or a reading program. So I'm seeing that for the how to structure it as lectures and giving you materials and then getting your feedback and then maybe organizing it as a question and answer session, maybe similar like this on YouTube as well. So I appreciate everybody's interest and enthusiasm, and I really want to help as many of you as possible with your scores in each section. So, thank you for letting me see these scores that you've already had. So I see for Dr. Akarna, 20 in reading, 19 in listening, 24 in speaking, 24 in writing. Okay, so those... I always need to work on my math skills, but that's, yeah, about 39, 59, 50, 63. Yeah, getting in those 80s. So, okay. And also here for A7, ME do 8, reading 22, writing 24, listening 21, speaking 26. Okay. So yeah, we're going to look at some of those writing scores. So it looks like you have already gotten that 24. Is this set of 22, 24, 21, 26, are those your targets, or that's your previous results and you just, again, need to get the 24 on the writing? If you can let me know that a little bit. So, and okay, yeah, around 85 there for Dr. Arcana. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to be doing here today in this masterclass is basically what I usually do when I meet students for the first time, when we meet on Skype, and when they tell me that some of their priorities are like speaking, writing, and in this case, we're going to be focusing on the writing part. What are the links, resources that I share to help people get started, and then we'll go into a little bit more depth because I've received a handful of essays, integrated essays and independent essays from you, so that we will take a look at them. The essays themselves will be anonymous, so you won't know who wrote this. I don't want to embarrass anybody or call anybody out. We're all here to learn together and to make some progress with the writing skills. Okay, so I'm going to go over here and switch the view here. I'm going to put my camera down in the corner and I'm going to share my screen. So, and then later on, I will share these links that we've been using for today. And then we'll get into the review of those essays. And then I will talk a little bit about the 2-week workshop that I will be organizing from this coming Monday, February 24th, until March 8th for those 2 weeks. But I'll get into more detail once we get to the end here. And I would say, please stick around as much as you can. There will be an added bonus for those of you watching this live. And also if you're watching the replay, there'll be a certain time limit for you to pick up that bonus if you decide to join the writing workshop today or these next couple of days. Okay, so let me switch my view here. Okay, so that should go now. Let me see if you see that switch. I'm just gonna have to delay for a few seconds when I'm looking over on my camera. Yeah, it looks like you can see that change. Okay, so one of the first things that we look at here is on the website, the Magoosh. They also have TOEFL training materials. And one link that I usually go to first of all is this article about understanding how your score works, what to expect on there. And so specifically for the writing, what we look at is the how are your scores, like the raw scores, how do they get converted over to your final score over 30? And for that to happen, you need to understand that the two essays, the integrated essay and the independent essay, are based on a scale of 5 points. So with those 5 points, if you get a 5 on one and a 5 on the other, Well, that would be a total of 10 points, and that would get you a 30. Now, many students who are in the range of wanting to get like a 24, a 25. Let me see if I can zoom in here because it looks like the numbers are a little small on the screen. So if you are wanting to get this 24, this 25, the simplest thing to explain for the 25 would be you want to get a 4 out of 5 and a 4 out of 5. So on the integrated essay, the 4 out of 5, on the independent essay, a 4 out of 5. If you can manage to get those both at a very good level, that would get you 25 out of 30 points. Now, what are some of these characteristics of a 3, a 4, a 5? So make sure that you are familiar with the writing rubrics. So these writing rubrics, I will provide these links here. These are the characteristics for what goes into the top scores. So it's a little bit more informative when you look at starting from like a low score, let's say like a 2, and then you go up little by little to compare what's the difference between a 2 and a 3, a 2 and a 4, or a 3 and a 4, and a 5. So the 5 is basically, it's very well written, it's very organized. You're selecting the important information from the lecture, the important information from the reading passage. But if you take a look, dropping this down to like a 2, in some cases, this has a lot of language issues like grammar, misspelling, confusing words that just make your ideas just difficult to read. If you are not using like the most important ideas from the lecture, if you're just very general, very vague with those ideas, and you don't really make a clear connection between the reading passage and the lecture, that can be a problem. Or if you completely understood something, let's say maybe a bit backwards, that could also lower this score here. So another thing is if you're missing points, so if there are 3 points to discuss between the reading and the lecture, and you clearly miss one, that is going to be a problem. You can see here in the score of 3 that this is omitting one major key point in the lecture. So your writing skills are not just about your ability to write. You do also need to have good listening skills and good note-taking skills, because those will have an impact on the amount of detail you are adding to the essay. Now, a big problem I often see in some of these essays is that we don't clearly see who said what. So students will not necessarily say, okay, according to the author or according to the professor. So if I don't see that back and forth of who said what, that can make it difficult to see that connection, the connection between those two sources of information. Okay. Now, once this gets better and you're avoiding any details that are inaccurate, you're avoiding that it's vague or that it's imprecise. Once those connections get clear, the grammar is under control. Mostly the spelling, the punctuation are working, and you're not repeating yourself. That will gradually increase the quality of the writing here, and eventually getting up to if the quality that like a native speaker would use. This can also get into the variety of the sentences. For example, simple sentences, compound sentences, complex, and complex compound. So I will go into more details of those sentence types and the sentence variety in the workshop when we dedicate more time to the to the writing style and the sentences, and also clauses, relative clauses, independent, dependent clauses, and adding that variety in there. So that complexity does add to that level of kind of what would a native speaker be doing for these essays, but just making your writing look complicated or complex but full of mistakes, that can backfire. So you do need to find a balance between good writing that is grammatically correct and clear to understand, not just using difficult academic vocabulary and hoping that it makes sense. So the vocabulary range, I do generally try to encourage students to use clear, brief, understandable writing as a basis. And after that, then we can work on the vocabulary range. But I do see a lot of student essays where students are trying hard to use academic vocabulary, but sometimes they're using it in an awkward way that can confuse the reader. So there's a balance there between using kind of easy to understand, standard use of the language that's grammatically correct, and then on top of it, kind of occasionally kind of using appropriate academic words. If it's all academic words and it's difficult to read, that is not necessarily going to be helpful for the essay. And again, I will go into more detail about that vocabulary use and adding variety of words through word families. So word families are finding like the roots, the prefixes, suffixes, and making these changes that are a noun to a verb to an adjective. So one example for this would be like the word inform as a verb, information as a noun, informative as an adjective, or the verb educate, that's a verb. There's a noun, education. There's an adjective, educational. So if you get good at using your vocabulary with some flexibility, that is a higher level skill for your writing. I see a lot of students who would just kind of repeat words or sometimes just use random words that they find in a thesaurus, but it can make it sound a bit awkward sometimes. So there's a balance there on your vocabulary range and your vocabulary choice. Again, we will go into this in more detail in the 2-week workshop, but I just want to highlight this as these are things that I notice in student writing. Moving on over here is the details about the independent essay writing rubric. So, I mean, the highest score is that saying that this is effectively addressing the topic. That's a big thing, actually. I do see a lot of essays where people are off topic. We will see an example here in one of the essays that I received to demonstrate how you really need to be careful with interpreting the question, interpreting the prompt, and making sure that your ideas that you're brainstorming stay on topic. And you don't want to just rush straight in to the independent essay and say, oh, yeah, I think I get what they're looking for. I have a memorized anecdote. I'm going to force that anecdote into this essay, whether or not it works. And that's not a good approach because there's a risk that that idea is going to be off topic. So you do need to be very narrow, very focused on making sure that your ideas match the key words that are in that prompt. So we'll look at that in more detail about the brainstorming techniques, how to know if your ideas are on topic or off topic, and how to build up your body paragraph writing style with a topic sentence, a hook, some clarification about what is the point you're making, creating some kind of an anecdote or an example that demonstrates the point you're making, drawing a conclusion from that anecdote and showing how it clearly relates to the topic. And then maybe moving on to a second body paragraph that hopefully will build on top of the first one, not necessarily be completely kind of unconnected or disconnected from the two. But if these two ideas can work together and further build an argument, that can be a better writing style. So we will work on those skills in this workshop, but just realizing this, how effective is your essay at addressing the topic is very important, because there's a big risk of being off topic sometimes. The organization, the development. So development means you want to go into detail. You want to make sure your reader clearly understands your logic and that your ideas make sense, that they're coherent. And by development, like, you want to add some detail. I do mention, for example, when I talk to my kids after school and I ask them, like, how was school today? Okay. What did you do? Nothing. That is not well developed. That's a very limited approach to detail. It's like, stop asking me. I don't want to talk. And on your essays, you do want to be generous with the detail, but you do also want to make sure that that detail is appropriate, that it's the most important ideas that would help make your point. Because I do see a lot of essays where the students are adding non-essential detail to an anecdote, and then the reader can get confused or distracted, and it feels like the writer is rambling or unfocused. So you do want to highlight and include only the essential information that develops your argument. You don't want to be like my kids where it's just fine, nothing. You don't want to be that limited, but you do want to be using appropriate information that is going to clearly demonstrate the logic and the idea that you are demonstrating step by step. Okay, let me go over here to some of your comments. So with Ryan, does our workshop cover note-taking and reading techniques of the integrated writing section? Yes, definitely. It's the whole process, because if you're not going to be effective at, like, your reading skills, detecting what is a key idea, what's a main idea in the reading section, and also detecting the note-taking for the lecture as well, you want to be good at catching those main ideas and seeing how they relate to each other, and also anticipating, once you're looking at the reading passage and anticipating how might the professor and the lecturer react. So there can be about 3 different interactions between the reading passage and the lecture, where there could be what you see in a lot of the TOEFL ETS materials, where it says, like, that how does the lecturer cast doubt on the claims made in the reading passage? That is basically the two sides disagree with each other. A lot of the integrated essays are of that nature. We will also take a look at examples where the reading passage describes a problem, a potential problem or a potential challenge, and the lecture describes solutions, potential solutions to fixing or solving that problem. Or there can be that the reading passage describes 3 solutions to a problem, but the lecturer, the professor, explains how there are problems with those solutions. There are weaknesses or poking holes in those solutions. So we will go into more details with examples of each of those types of interactions between reading passage and lecture. And I will give you those prompts so you can work on them and you can develop your skills on that. And as I have mentioned before, there will be 10 integrated essays for you to work on and 10 independent essays for you to work on. We will start with the integrated essays first because I want to see your writing style. And in my opinion, the integrated templates and integrated essays are a little bit easier to start with because it's just third person writing, he said, she said, or in the passage they presented this. So it's not your personal ideas, it's just your reporting on information. So we'll start there and then we'll move on to the independent essay. So I want to fix some of your grammatical issues, writing issues on the integrated, and then we'll move on to the independent where brainstorming also becomes important. But yes, we will be working on note-taking and the reading skills. Looking for help. Dr. Akarna, looking for help on the note-taking. We will definitely include note-taking there. Thank you. It's because I think that the listening and reading of the integrated writing has its own structures. Yeah, there are some things to anticipate for your reading. You get the 3 minutes to look at this text on the screen. So you don't want like dictation notes because you will see that text again when you're writing your essay. You won't see the text when you're listening to the lecture. You'll have the 3 minutes when you are looking at it on the screen. So just some main notes to prepare you for the lecture, but it's not as stressful as the speaking questions 2 and 3, where you have 45, 50 seconds to look at a short text and then it's gone forever. So there you do need to be fast at your note taking. I do also recommend to students, in a similar way that you would work on your typing skills, I recommend working on this kind of taking notes without looking at your pen or without looking at your paper. You wouldn't have a pen, pencil. Because that disconnect between looking at the screen and looking down, you can lose some time. So, and nobody else is going to be looking at your notes. It's just for you. So there are some note-taking techniques and skills. For example, skipping the vowels in some keywords because English spelling can be complicated. Is it IE? Is it double E? Is it EA? So if you can avoid the vowels when you're taking notes, sometimes just focus on the consonant sounds or even the phonetic pronunciation of a word. That allows you to just take some notes and keep paying attention to what you're listening to and not get distracted with what you're writing. So that's, again, something we will work on in the note-taking skills. Understanding their structures, getting familiar with that could help to earn better scores. Yes. Yeah, a big part of the exam is being familiar with the exam, what to expect. If you just throw somebody into the exam and they don't know what to expect, they don't know how it's organized, they don't know how it functions, they don't know how they're being scored or evaluated, like the criteria, it can be very stressful. So this idea, be prepared, be aware, understand how you're being scored. Those are things to kind of really integrate into your preparations because this exam is not exactly testing your English. I know that sounds strange. It's testing how well you can perform on this exam. So you can be a very good English speaker, very good in conversations and writing things, emails and things to friends, and reading books or listening to things on TV or movies. But for a lot of people, this can be a very stressful experience. It can be 3 to 4 hours. It can be early in the morning. Well, recently they added the afternoons as well. But it can be a very stressful experience. There's a lot of importance for this exam, for your college applications, pharmacy licensing, other medical professions that are using this exam. So there's a lot of weight, there's a lot of importance for this exam, and that can create a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. And it isn't always a demonstration of how well you speak English. It's how well you can speak English for this exam and really just give them what they want so you can get on with your life and move on to your next projects. So I really want to help you with your writing so you can just know what to expect, what are your main weaknesses, what are your main strengths with your writing skills, and what you can do to kind of give you a push forward. That's why I want to have you going through and writing as many essays as possible and not just one or two. I want you to feel that you're making progress and that you can detect some of these main weaknesses and strengths. Okay. The structures and how to attack the problems we are facing in different sections. Okay, so the different sections, the reading, listening, speaking. For this workshop, for these 2 weeks of the writing, I do need to just focus on the writing. Hold on to those questions about the other sections. I do want to get to those other programs, but for these next 2 weeks, it's writing. Obviously, the integrated writing does include reading and listening, but we're going to be a bit more focused on your writing skills. But I will be happy to develop more materials for the other sections. And okay. And like the answer we got wrong, how to do such questions again correctly. Okay. So I think we'll need to look at some specific examples, what you mean by like which answer you got wrong, and why it was wrong or what was the weakness. So I'm not sure if that's perhaps like a reading question or a listening question, but in terms of like the essays, the way I would interpret that question is if you got the interpretation of the prompt wrong, we can kind of go back and look at what you were missing. For example, if these were notes that were incomplete. So part of the note taking, I will also encourage you to take pictures of your notes, share them with me so I can see what you are writing down as you're reading or what you're writing down as you're listening. And we will kind of compare and contrast each other's notes and see what are the best practices and see which notes are more effective and which techniques we should all be using for that. Okay. Another question here from Ryan. What if we face with vocabulary we don't know how to survive through the writing? Yeah, that's a very good question. I would definitely make sure to, when we discuss vocabulary, what to do when you don't understand a key word. So if it is possible that they can give you some technical words, usually there might be like a key word on a whiteboard or a blackboard. So they do give you some of those keywords. I know they do that specifically in the listening section. Usually for this integrated one, you would see some of those words in the text first. So you might want to look at the prefixes, roots, suffixes, see if you can break that word apart, see if there are context clues, other words, other things that are in the text that might give you a hint about how that word is being used. But we will go into more detail about kind of working on your vocabulary and kind of how the vocabulary can affect your understanding of a text or a lecture, also with pronunciation possibly. Okay. And if we found only one idea for the independent writing in a given time, how to write well, like the essay has two or more. Okay, that's a little bit into the brainstorming process, and we will definitely go into these brainstorming techniques and ways to look at things from different angles, different perspectives. So I will show you some of my techniques where I try to generate at least 2 to 3 ideas, and then for each one of those 2 to 3 ideas, give myself a potential of maybe 6 to 9 ideas that I could choose from. I usually look at my first ideas and I try to create a core idea. And by a core idea, for me, this is a visual verb, something that I can see or that I can concretely imagine with an object, and with that object, maybe some adjective. And those 3 together, like a verb, an adjective, and a noun, this is something that could become an idea that I could talk about. If I can give it some more detail, like a place, a time, some manner, like how that action is being, how that action is happening, that starts to turn it into a sentence. So I want to just, instead of having isolated random words, which most people have when they're, for example, in the speaking section, like question number 1, all they get is one key word. I try to work on how to take that key word, turn it into an idea, and turn it into a potential sentence, and try to generate those as quickly as possible. So we will work on the brainstorming techniques to get you thinking quickly and finding effective ideas and ideas that would be appropriate for the different topics. We will definitely get to that. I know it can be stressful, especially in the speaking part. We're not really focusing on speaking part here, but you can take some of the techniques that you would use for preparing for question number 1 in speaking, where you only have 15 seconds and then you have 45 seconds to talk. Give yourself that kind of a timing when you start looking at the independent essay prompt. Imagine it was a speaking question. What would you come up with in 15, 20, 30 seconds? So don't waste too much time stressing out about that topic. Try to come up with solutions, try to come up with ideas and go through them, go iterate through lots of ideas in 1 or 2 minutes, and then select the best 2 ideas. You don't need lots and lots of ideas, but sometimes if you can generate a lot of ideas, you can find like 2 good ones. Also keep in mind, we're not looking for perfect ideas. This is just a 20-minute academic exercise on an exam. It's also at the end of the exam, when you've been here for about 3 hours, 3.5 hours, you're probably getting a migraine, you're probably getting fatigued from reading 3 passages, listening to 5 passages, speaking for about 20 minutes. So your ideas, they might not be the best ideas at that point. So we don't need perfect ideas, but we need good ideas that work, that are enough. So we'll go through that definitely as we're in the workshop. Okay. And my word count does not get to 300. Okay, yeah. So that's another issue, and I will mention this here briefly. So with that question, let me mention something here. So this is a typing test called 10 Fast Fingers. So the way this works is you just have random words on the screen, and it's going to test your typing speed. How many words are you getting per minute? This is one exercise I would talk about for typing. Another one would be to take an actual essay, like a 300-word essay, copy it from like one screen, look at that, and then type over here and see how long does it take you to copy a text, like a news article, or in this case, it would be better to use an essay, and then time yourself and see, are you able to write 300 words, or are you able to write 350 words in, let's say, 15 minutes? If not, what is holding you back? So this test on the screen right now, that's just random words. You don't have to deal with punctuation or capital letters. But once you start copying an actual essay, there you can see some things that might be holding you back on capitalization, punctuation, an apostrophe, if there's possession. And then after that, I would also recommend time yourself while thinking and writing freely. Because the essay, when you're doing these essays, you also have to be thinking and brainstorming how are you going to be writing this grammatically correct sentence, and then after that, the next sentence. So we'll go through a couple of these typing tests to see where are your weaknesses. Is it how you're using your fingers? Are you using just 2 fingers or 3? Can you improve your typing speed? And how are you doing with the timing and thinking quickly and typing? So we'll definitely focus a little bit on those typing issues as well. And for that integrated. So for that integrated essay, I would recommend. I mean, my own essays have been above 300, even above 400, because I do consider that I'm a fast typer. This test here has said I'm usually in like that top 10%, top 15%, where I might be writing about 70 words per minute. But obviously that number goes down probably about 50% once you start brainstorming and thinking what are you going to write next. So this is a way for you to see like what's your highest speed, and then kind of gradually where is your average as you're thinking and writing and proofreading. For the independent essays, I would usually aim for above the 400 and above 500. I don't necessarily recommend that everybody should do that, because it depends on how fast you can type and how advanced you are with your English skills. But there is a comfortable zone where you have good writing, you have appropriate detail, and I don't want to just tell people add padding or add fluff to just increase your word count. That's not an effective technique. You do want to have good writing and probably like condensing your ideas so that they are clear. So it's not necessarily just a high word count means it's good writing. You do want to have a balance on effective writing. And also with these templates. So that's another good question here. So one of my friends, Michael Goodine of the TOEFLresources.com, he has 2 excellent templates. I especially really like this one for the integrated essay. So this one, I do definitely recommend this to all my students. I use it myself. And so he has gone through here. He has a video as well with a recent update with the changes that went into effect with the exam as of August. And however, the writing section did not change in August. The other sections changed, but the writing section basically stayed the same. So as I mentioned here, there might be an opposition between the reading passage and the professor, or a problem solution, or a solution and issues dealing with those solutions. So these are a couple things to anticipate, and then getting into what to expect from the reading, what to expect from the lecture, some note-taking skills, and then some template phrases. These are a very good structure to add on there. I do definitely recommend to a lot of students, like, don't reinvent the wheel. If this works, use it. I have seen a lot of other templates or that students they want to always use, and sometimes forcing a template might not be the best approach. But consider some of these templates a bit like having training wheels on a bicycle. So when children get used to riding a bike, they have the 2 extra wheels on the side so they don't fall over. But then once they gain a little bit more confidence with their bike riding, we take off the wheels and they learn how to find their balance, and then they can ride a bike. But obviously, if you look at professional athletes, people in the Tour de France, they don't use training wheels. So hopefully, as we go through the essay writing process and this, like the integrated one, we can start with a template, give you some structure, some organization that you can start with, and realize, like, with each one of these sentences, what is its function? What's the purpose of that sentence? So this first sentence is to let us know that there are 2 sources of information. There's a reading, there's a professor in a lecture, and what's the topic that's being discussed? What are they debating? After that, what does the first person believe? The author. What's their opinion? Do they agree? Do they disagree? Do they support this? Are they against it? What's the professor in the lecture believe? How do they react to the author? What is their opinion? So I kind of consider this like a boxing match. In this corner, we have this contendant. In the other corner, we have this one. Okay, we're going to be fighting over this, championship weight title. And then what are the two sides? Yeah. And that just sets up the reader to know, did you understand what this was about? And did you understand what the two opinions were? And then we just start getting into a simple hypothesis or topic sentence, summarizing what the author of the reading passage had said. What is the supporting information that they used there? How does the professor react? What information do they use? And I try to add maybe like some little concluding statement that's not really on this template, but I try to wrap up that paragraph with like, so this clearly demonstrates that it was possible, blah, blah, blah. So you can see like, okay, a point for the professor. So we can see after these three body paragraphs, we can see that the professor like demonstrated his or her point effectively. So those are a few things that I would throw in here based on Michael's template. I would highly recommend this one. The independent essay, those can be a little bit more challenging. There isn't always a one-size-fits-all essay structure or template. There could be agree, disagree. There could be some kind of a multiple choice. Which one would you prefer? There could be something related to, for example, the speaking question number 1. Some people prefer X, others prefer Y. Which do you think is better, or which do you prefer? That kind of a question can also be thrown in there as well. So there isn't always a very easy template to use for everything, but we will look at these different essay types of prompts and what are some good techniques that would be appropriate for that type of essay. We'll go into the details like for each one of these types. But the information that Michael provides here on his website and in his YouTube videos is very useful. I highly recommend it to all of my students. And he definitely specializes in a lot of writing section materials and essay reviews. So I definitely respect his input, his insights. Okay. Let me get to some other questions here. So, and do some fancy, rare, tough vocab and phrases enhance my writing scores? Well, that's a good question. And I would say that you need to have some confidence with the vocabulary that you're using. If you're not certain that you're using it correctly, that's a risk. So I would say imagine let's imagine a doctor, like a surgeon, and who just learned a new technique last week. Should they apply that technique in their next surgery if they haven't tested it yet? That could be risky. So they want to test this out, make sure they're using something correctly, appropriately, that they've understood it clearly. So I end up telling students a little bit like, play it safe with your vocabulary on the day of the exam. With me reviewing your essays, go ahead, take some risks, get my feedback, get my assessment. Are you using that appropriately? Are you using it effectively? But on the day of the exam, I would say like it's not the best moment to try out some difficult vocabulary that you don't necessarily feel confident using. It's a bit of a risk. And sometimes with idiomatic phrases like kill 2 birds with 1 stone, if you make a mistake on say like, okay, kill 3 birds with 1 rock, the reader might recognize what idiom you're trying to use, but it would sound clumsy or awkward. So You want to make sure that the idiomatic phrases are being used correctly. So that needs some practice. And basically, I would say like play it safe. Don't necessarily take too many of those risks on the day of the exam. I also relate this a little bit to dating. Let's say you're going on a blind date, and I tell female students, like, okay, you've never worn that dress before, or you've never used that shade of makeup or lipstick or something. Like, if you haven't tried that before and you don't know if you look good, that might be a risk. So go ahead, play it safe, wear your best clothing, wear your best makeup, or like just wear something that you know that you're going to be confident that you like look good in that to make a good first impression. So for the exam, for your writing, you really have that one shot to make a good impression with your writing. So you want to show them your best skills that you're most confident using. You don't really want to go throw in some things that you're uncomfortable with or unfamiliar with and that you're kind of hesitating, am I using it correctly? You don't want to be really using stuff that would you have a doubt if it's correct. Okay. And where can I read some authentic essays? So I'm also going to be contributing. So these essay topics that we're going to be using in the workshop, I will be writing them as well. So I'm going to be writing 20 essays, the 10 integrated ones and the 10 independent ones. And I will be sharing you like what techniques, what strategies do I use with my writing. I will be making kind of screenshots or screen video casts so you can see me writing for that 15, 20 minutes and the 25, 30 minutes. You can watch that and kind of maybe zoom through and see where am I hesitating or where am I, what am I doing with my template, my outline. Also, as people contribute their essays in this program, in the workshop, I will be making a database of the essays like on a Google document so you can check out each other's essays from other students and we can look at some of these best practices. So again, this will be anonymous. I don't want to embarrass anybody or call anybody out or make anybody feel uncomfortable about their writing. It's in everybody's benefit so that we can see kind of in a classroom setting, if I put something up on the board and said, hey, everybody, let's look at this. Let's see what works, what doesn't, what can be improved, what are some potential weaknesses and strengths, and then everybody can learn from that. So you will be able to see these essays from your peers and take a look at that. And does ETS provide any sample essays? They do have sample essays in their official guide. And you can see where they say this would have scored a 5, this would have scored a 4, this would have scored a 3. So when appropriate, I will share some of those examples so you can get an idea what would that be scoring, what makes that a good essay, what makes that a weak essay as well. Okay, well, just to wrap up a few of these other links here, but one other link that we will go into is this, for example, this Purdue online writing lab. And there are many universities around the United States that have this concept of a writing lab because even native speakers, even English speakers, Americans who just finished high school, they're not necessarily great writers. So they do need to go through how to write a college essay, how to do it well, how to do it effectively. So this website, they do have a lot of great resources and links. So I usually start with this search tool. And if I just show you briefly and I say like clauses. So on the clauses, this is loading. So you can see some of the links saying here, independent, dependent clauses, rules with commas in the clauses, defining clauses, the sentence arrangement, so using that and which within clauses, relative pronouns in non-defined clauses. Those are very technical terms for the writing process, but I would recommend if you are serious about improving your writing, get familiar with a couple of these concepts. I will go in and help you see some of these examples and how they work and how they're effective. But this is a very good website it's an actual university and they are giving some very good information for their students so they can improve their writing skills, because getting good at writing at an American university or in English, it's not just something for you to pass the TOEFL exam. If you do get accepted to a university, you're going to have to do a lot of writing in lots of different courses. So this is not just something you're doing to take the test. This is something that it's a skill you want to keep developing and continuously work on and get better at, because if you're a good writer, that's going to help you in many different subjects, not just this test. So, okay, let's take a look at your writing samples. So just a handful here. Let me zoom in a little bit, make sure that you can see this. Hopefully, if I'm not blocking this on the screen, let me see over there. It looks like I might be blocking the screen. Give me 1 second here. Let me move my face over there. You don't need to see me. Okay. So this integrated essay that several of you got a chance to see and submit, this is talking about a mammal called R. robustus. And archaeologists found a dinosaur in its stomach. And the question between the reading passage and the professor in the lecture is, did this mammal, R. robustus, did it actively hunt this dinosaur, or was it a scavenger, meaning it didn't kill it, it didn't hunt it, it just found the remains and ate it, or perhaps it found an egg and ate that before it was hatched. So there's some debate there. So let's take a look here. So the archaeologists have recently found mammals. So here we're missing an article, the fossil called R. robustus. They found a remaining, so spelling, for another dino. I wouldn't use the slang, abbreviated form for dinosaur, saying dino, inside its stomach. So that is correct, using that possessive. That's good. Both the article and the professor, so the spelling there, but the article and the professor at arguing, so we have an unnecessary preposition there, are arguing whether the R. robustus was a scavenger or fed on other mammals. This is a problem in the writing where this is a noun or a verb, and that is not consistent. So I would try to use two nouns or two verbs. So we're comparing apples to apples and not comparing apples to oranges for that. We'll go into detail into that in the workshop as well. Okay, the first disagreement revolved around the size of the R. robustus. The professor stated that even though the R. robustus was small in size, so that is a detail that's there, it could have been able to feed on baby dinosaurs. So yes, that is correct. She explained that the R. robustus was double the size of the baby dinos. Again, I wouldn't use dinos. Therefore, it was possible for the R. robustus to feed. So careful, this is fed in the past. We want feed on the baby dinosaurs, the spelling. On the other hand, the writing stated that the R. robustus was of the small size of a cat. Also, it was smaller than the psittacosaurs that was found in its stomach. In the template that I just showed you with Michael Goodine and the TOEFL resources, I think I would go ahead and start with the reading passage and say that the author of the reading says that this mammal was too small because it was the size of a cat, and it was smaller than that psittacosaur. So this would kind of create some doubt about the ability to hunt. But this information here about the professor and about the size and that it could have eaten a baby dinosaur, that is correct. So the point, the information there is accurate. Just a few things here on spelling and these verb forms like feed, fed. So be careful with that. But I do like that there is this therefore it was possible. So this demonstrates some kind of a conclusion there. I might just move some of those sentences around. Okay, let's move on to another essay here. Okay, the reading and essay, that's a little confusing. because that sounds like they're the same thing. So I would say the reading and the lecture are both about the eating habits of R. robustus. The author of the reading feels that the R. robustus were not scavengers. I think that's not correct. I think that's the opposite. I think the author of the reading says they were scavengers. It's doubtful that they hunted this animal. So that, unfortunately, that's an inaccurate point. The lecturer challenges the claims made by the author. She is of the opinion that arbus were hunters. So again, this is confusing because if you say they were hunters and then here you say they were not scavengers, that's confusing because not scavenger, that would be a hunter. So actually, in that case, the author and the lecturer agree with each other. So just be careful with that. Be careful with those words and how you're presenting the information. Okay. To begin with, the author claims that the size of R. robustus was a size. Okay, that's unfortunately a little repetitious. So the size of was the size of. So we need to be careful with that kind of repetition or redundancy. A domestic cat, about 2 meters. 2 meters what? 2 meters high, 2 meters tall, 2 meters long. So we do need some adjective there. 2 meters what? The article mentions that the R. robustus was not big enough, careful with the spelling, to hunt prey. So we usually don't use a prey. We just use to hunt prey like dinosaur. So there's some sentence issues there with the grammar. This specific argument is challenged by the lecturer. Okay, that sentence works. That's clear. She claims that the R. robustus could hunt baby dinosaurs and it matches our findings in fossils. Additionally, she says the size, so we don't need this capital T there, size of R. robustus was twice the size of the prey, therefore they could hunt them. Okay, this one, they could hunt. I would recommend using this in the third conditional. That is like they could have hunted. So we'll go into some of the grammar there as well between like second conditional versus third conditional. Okay, and secondly, the writer suggests that the body figure of robustus was good for scavenging, not hunting. Okay, the arbus had their feet on their sides. I think actually this should be their legs on their sides rather than underneath their bodies. So that's a slightly inaccurate detail. We're not able to hunt their prey, so this is uncountable. The lecturer, however, rebuts this by mentioning the Tasmanian devil, not the tiger, as an example that in spite the fact that it had short legs on the sides, but it was able to run. So this in spite of and but, we will need to work on some of those transition phrases or connecting phrases for these. Make sure that sentence is grammatically correct there. Okay, moving on to another example here. The article states that the R. robustus was a scavenger and provides 3 reasons of support. Okay, that's good. That's clear. However, the professor explains that the R. robustus was an active hunter and refutes each of the author's reasons. That's clear as well. It's a short introduction, but it seems to cover the main points. So scavenger, hunter. Okay. First, the reading claims that the R. robustus was small, like the size of a domestic cat. So this is a bit more effective. We don't have the word size 2 times. We have that it was small, like the size of a domestic cat. So that seems effective. The professor refutes this point by saying, yes, it was small, but it could hunt a baby dinosaur, or it could have hunted, that third conditional. He states that so there you want to be careful. Animals are its, not he or she. Otherwise, we might understand that as saying that the professor says the professor was a hunter. So it had more than twice stomach. This starts to have an issue there. Maybe, yeah, because we want to look at the mass size of the animal. So this is a little confusing there. Second, the article claims that the legs of R. robustus appear much more suited for scavenging. We saw that phrase in the other essay. However, the professor claims that they found modern mammals have the same legs. This modern mammals, that makes it sound like all modern mammals. We want to say a specific modern mammal. Is that they found a modern mammal, the Tasmanian devil. It can, because it actually exists, it can run 15 kilometers per hour. It is active and successful. So the R. robustus could have been, like, by comparison. So you do want to be careful with those few sentences. We'll look in that grammar a little bit more in detail when we get to the into the details for the workshop of how to be effective with this kind of comparisons about something in the past, or in the like especially these dinosaurs that have been extinct for millions of years. Okay. This fourth one, okay, the passage starts with the remains of psittacosaur dinosaur was found. So that's a problem here with remains, which is plural, but then the verb was. So we'll get into proofreading techniques as well. Double check if you're using verbs correctly for present, singular or plural. Those are some frequent mistakes I see in essays. Found from stomach. So this is a missing article from, like, was found in the stomach. So prepositions, articles, those can be difficult. Which is an ancient dinosaur. Actually, what they say in the reading passage was that this R. robustus was a mammal. Was R. robustus a hunter? I think we can get rid of the word animal. Was a hunter or a scavenger? As following question, lecture, so missing an article, and given prompt are contrasting. Given prompt, I think, is not good there. It should be the lecture. So lecture and given prompt are contrasting. The author gave 3 main ideas about the dinosaur was a scavenger. Gave 3 main ideas that the dinosaur was a scavenger. However, so punctuation here. The lecture shows contradiction, or a contradiction, so something with the article there, on the topic by giving 3 facts. Okay, so there are some things to work on there in the grammar and the making the sentence grammatically correct there. First, the author suggested that R. robustus was a small animal, which it could be hard to hunt animals. We need to work on the relative clause there. So that the idea is given that they used to scavenger eggs. Scavenger, that's a noun, not the verb. It is based on its size. Thus, if a bigger dinosaur's remains are found in smaller sized animal's stomach, it shows the meaning of they ate eggs. So I understand the idea, but there's some things here on the writing style to fix to make that more effective. For this fact, the lecturer said R. robustus' regular size was bigger than baby dinosaurs. Okay, so there are a few things to work on here to improve that. I can see that this student has understood the ideas, but the writing style might not be as effective there. Okay, and then this last one here. Okay, the given article states that R. robustus was unlikely to be an active hunter of dinosaurs and provides 3 reasons of support. Okay, that's a great sentence. That's a great introduction. However, the professor explains that R. robustus was possibly a hunter, so the N is not necessary, rather than a scavenger, and refutes, we don't need the 2, refutes each of the author's reasons. Okay, overall, this introduction is not bad. It's a good start. First, the reading claims that because R. robustus was too small, only about the size of a domestic cat, it was unable to hunt the dinosaurs, which were so much bigger than them. Okay, that's a clear introduction. That's a clear start. The grammar looks good. The professor agrees that R. robustus was small, but she also believes it does not prove that they could not hunt or could not have hunted. So I like this sentence. This is clear. It's easy to follow. It's effective. Many other predators are small in size, but master in hunting and killing prey. Okay, we might need to fix that slightly. So like many other predators can be small in size and still manage to hunt and kill prey. So we need some kind of a transition or contrast word. In addition, R. robustus was 2 times bigger than the baby dinosaurs inside its stomach, which additionally proves instead of approves the statement that R. robustus was an active hunter. But there are a few things to fix there, and we will work on that in the workshop. But it's a good start. I like this start here. There's another one. Second, the article posits that the legs, so I'm missing the article, show they impossibly chase. That needs some work. Shows that it would not have been possible. It would not have been possible for them to chase their prey without the S. However, the professor gives an example of another successful predator. That's good. Okay. Whose legs? Great. Yeah. Whose legs? That's a very good use of whose. Whose legs are similar to R. robustus's, small and positioned a little to the side. Good. That's a very useful detail there. To demonstrate the second mentioned point is not convincing. Despite the position of its legs, this kind of animal is able to chase their prey, so with the S, with the speed up to 50, I think it might be 15 kilometers per hour. By mentioning this, the professor believes that R. robustus possibly had the same or faster speed and clearly could be an active hunter. I probably would put this as could have been because they're extinct now. But this writing style here possibly had the same or faster speed and clearly could have been an active hunter. I think that's a very helpful kind of concluding phrase there that demonstrates that you understand what this debate is and how effective that is. Okay, let me move on here to the independent essay. Okay, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? The technology has made children less creative than they were in the past. So I just want to pause here slightly of what is this prompt about? So we're looking at creativity and we're looking specifically at children. We're not talking about adults. And there's a comparison of than they were in the past. So this is a comparison between children today, children now, versus like a generation ago or 2 generations ago. We don't have a specific past, but there's some comparison between now versus the past and the influence of technology. And so that is something you want to be analyzing for the understanding the prompt. And what does it mean if you agree? If you agree, then you're saying that technology is probably a bad influence on children's creativity, that's making them less creative. Or if you say you disagree, it means that you think technology is actually helping children become more creative. So you do want to kind of turn this question around, look at it from a couple of different angles to make sure you clearly know what's going to be on topic or what's going to be off topic. If you only focus on children today, that's not going to be enough. We do need a comparison with now versus the past. Okay, so let's see here this intro and one of these ideas. Technology is now considered as the fundamental element of every revolution. Okay, so yeah, we have kind of like a hook. It gets us introduced to technology. People throughout the world are now able to connect to the most advanced and useful devices, even people at a young age. Children. It is to be doubted whether children's usage of technology would limit their creation, good, okay, and make them less innovative as people were in the past. Okay, this looks like the person has a clear understanding of what the question is, and they're able to rephrase it. That's good. Personally, I do not think technology is the obstacle, but rather the encouragement. Rather it's encouraging kids to be creative. I wouldn't use kids. That makes it a little bit more informal or slang. to be creative because of its power and its safety. Okay, so this does seem to show that the student has understood the question and they're going to be focusing on children, and that this possibility of now versus past, and whether it is affecting their creativity. So there are a few things to fix there, but it's a good start so far. Okay, it gives me a good impression so far. First, technical equipment, that should be singular, is powerful. They contain okay, so there's some grammatical issues here. They contain every information. Information is every information. They contain all the information from basic to advanced that children should be aware of. For example, they would be taught about proper way to sit and eat from YouTube, while camera teaches them how a photograph is taken. A printing machine shows an online page of words are printed on paper, and a phone can be used for many other purposes. Okay, they can learn all this when staying at home and their parents are too busy with deadlines. It is undeniable that every innovation starts with small steps of researching various topics. In other words, technology, especially the internet, provides the most useful knowledge for kids, which later motivates them to be creative. I actually would start here as a topic sentence, because up until here, I don't quite see specifically how this technology is influencing that creativity. So I would actually kind of get rid of this information, and I would start here and show like, well, what are they doing with that knowledge from YouTube or the internet? What kind of things are they making? So I would start here and then give an anecdote to demonstrate the point that this is being made. So not so much of general statements about multiple things that could be learned, but giving demonstration of what are some of these innovative creations that like one specific child is making, like my nephew, my neighbor's son, or I don't know, some other child that I know. Okay, moving on here to this next essay. Okay, the technology usage is increasing enormously these days. Besides, people are considering it's necessary. I think it's necessity. Is it good for our kids? I wouldn't use kids, I would say children. Some people think that it has bad effects. Instead, however, so this is it's not the best putting these commas, and these kind of interrupting the sentence there. So instead, however, that's a little redundant. The rest of them concerned, it has huge amount of advantages. If had to choose to grow my children with technology, there's some mistakes in there in that phrasing. I would surround them with technology for sure. That's a bit of a conversational phrase. Certainly, because it gives more creative than my childhood's technology. Okay, so there is a comparison between current children and like past. I feel this way for a few reasons. Okay, so just a few things on the grammar and the phrasing to fix in there, but I can see that they've understood the question. First of all, the technology gave human beings many good sources to solve things efficiently. So that phrasing is a little off. Thinking critically, making decisions based on fundamental information, finding good solutions, and selecting the best option. Today's children use encyclopedia source and information search system to do their homework. For instance, my brother always uses international online magazines to make his research, and he knows naturally how to find the information and to use it well. I believe younger generations are getting more creative and smarter, whereas we were not able to work with the technology as today's children. On the other side, they are not limited to find solution without asking their family, which is a little bit sore. So this first part here about learning and finding information, for me, it's slightly off topic. I don't quite see a direct link there of how specifically is that information leading to creativity. So it's not just technology and how everything related to technology affects like our learning process, but we do need to just jump over that and go from technology, creativity, and only really focus on technology and creativity, not just the learning or the thought process, but like what specific about technology is that making creativity. So for example, technology, let's say you have a digital paint program, and you could be maybe wearing virtual reality goggles and you could be painting in the air with your hands. That's something that people a generation or two could never have imagined possible. That is now a reality thanks to technology. So kids can draw in the air with virtual reality and make something like 3D in a virtual environment. That was impossible a couple generations ago. So that's one way where technology could enable children to make just 3D imaginary artwork that, you couldn't do that because the technology didn't exist in the past. Or a collaborative way to create things, like because of the internet, maybe children could make music with somebody in another country, so they can each record a piece of music, and then let's say like somebody plays the piano in the United States and somebody sings in China. Like the two of them could collaborate online, and that's something thanks to technology that would have been impossible a generation or two before. So that's a few ideas that I could think of there. Okay. Well, we've now been here for about an hour 20 minutes. Thank you so much for being here. I want to say, also give a bonus to several of you who have been here so far. So, so the 2-week program, and I'm going to put this link there so you can go check this out. Let me get this over here. So the 2-week program here, so that's me. Yes, you can see me there. So this 2-week program, it's going to be going from this Monday, the 24th, until Sunday, March 8th. We will be working on 10 integrated essay prompts, 10 independent essay prompts as well. So in total, you'll have access to these 20 essays for you to work on, and you'll just give me a 24-hour turnaround to make sure I can give you that the feedback and point out what is working, what's not, and how to improve that. This will have a cost of $50 per person. I think it's a very good deal. If you divide up these essays and the feedback that you're getting, it's about less than a cup of coffee, like at Starbucks, per essay. I hope that it's a very reasonable price. The cost of this program, it's basically the same cost of 1 hour of my private one-on-one lessons. So instead of one lesson, you'll have access to me and my feedback for 2 weeks, and these essays and the emails that I will be sending, and some of these video explanations with the links. So I would say definitely go check this out. And as a bonus for those of you who are still here now, thank you so much for watching. I will throw in a review of 4 TOEFL speaking questions. So I need to put a timer here on the website, but as a bonus, I'll say that for those of you watching live here, and for those of you who get a chance to watch the replay here, for the next, let's say for the next 12 hours until the end of Thursday, my time. I live in Mexico, so at the end of the day for me, if you can sign up in the next 12 hours, I will throw in a review of 4 TOEFL speaking responses. So you can record yourself on the question number 1, question 2, 3, 4, and I will also throw that in as a bonus. So not only will you get a chance to work here on these essays for the next 2 weeks, but to say thank you for being here, watching this video, watching this masterclass. And if you sign up today, I will throw in a speaking set of 4 questions. So Let me just take any other questions here, and also just say thank you to all of you for being here, Ryan, Dr. Arcana, and just thank you to the two of you for your questions. This has been very helpful to be able to give you some of the feedback, and also this A7ME DO 8. Thank you as well for being here. So I appreciate your questions, your interest, and I hope to see many people join us in the workshop. So this has been a small taste of some of the feedback on some of the essays. I didn't go into all of the detail there, but I just was highlighting some of the things in the introductions and body paragraph 1 to show you some things to work on. If there are any other questions, I'll be happy to answer those and stick around here for a little bit. But I really hope to see many of you join us in the workshop. So we will be starting next Monday. That's February 24th. I will be closing the doors for the sign up on Sunday evening Eastern time, like New York, Washington, D.C., the East Coast of the United States. And that way we can know how many people will be in the program for the next 2 weeks. And so help spread the word. And I will again make a post in the TOEFL iBT practice group. But thank you. I hope you have found this useful, and have a great rest of your day, afternoon, evening, and see you soon.